217 Recovery Podcast. I'm Corey Winfield. Thank you for listening. And today is a special day. We'll get into that with our guest here in just a minute, but just want to remind you about the UFAM event. It's the UFAM Rally, May 17th in Lansing, 101 North Capitol. That's where we're going to be, and we're going to unite to face addiction in Michigan. That's what UFAM stands for. So we're proud to be a sponsor. We're going to be out there broadcasting live. Come see us at our table. We're going to have goodies. I don't think we're going to have the ice cream eating competition or the taste test challenge. I'm a little upset, but hey, we're still working on it. Never say never. Never say never. There's other events too coming up. Of course, the harm reduction. That's happening if you're around the area up north, Petoskey, on May 9th from 5 to 8. So stop by there. They're going to do a blood draw, and they're actually going to pay you for it. If you go to our website, there's some stuff there, 217recovery.com, there's some resources for you. But you can also go to our Facebook page and look at our event calendar, because there's stuff posted on there because, well, we can post stuff on there just like that. And speaking of calendars and websites, I want to welcome Lisa. Lisa, I don't want to butcher your last name.
It is Clavier.
Clavier.
Yes.
Okay. Well, because driving over here, I was trying to say it over and over, and it just wasn't working. So I was like, I'm just going to let her say it.
Well, thank you. It's very nice to be here with you today.
Yeah. I think this was my thinking behind everybody I meet with a last name that I can't pronounce. I was like, I think everybody should just be named Winfield, but then that would make dating really hard. I'm like, I don't know if you're my cousin, my third, my fifth. I don't even know. So I think, that was kind of dumb thinking. But you are the founder, president
of Kiersten's Ride.
Of Kiersten's Ride,
correct.
And I came across your website. I was giving Trevor a hard time because he doesn't like, but one of the main things that he likes to get behind, I guess, would be suicide prevention. He lost his sister, and he said that just really sent him into a downward spiral. That's when his substance use became just, he didn't care. Give me more to drink, give me more to do, put it in front of me, I'm going to do it because I don't want to feel that pain anymore. And so that got me looking around the web, and then I came across you, and you're here in East Jordan. And I was like, wow, perfect. Like, I want to get a hold of him. And I did, and you wrote me back right away. And I was like, oh, great, and get Lisa on. And we had a talk last week, and I was driving back down south or whatever. Down south, yeah.
South Michigan.
Yeah. Heading way down south where it snowed 3 inches. And up here it didn't even snow. But we had a lovely talk, and I was checking out your website today. And there's all kinds of stuff that you guys do and that you provide for people, and one of it is training. Yes.
So very sorry for your friend Trevor's loss of his sister, and we're very sorry that really spiraled in a very negative way for him. We know that post-pension care is very important, but we are grateful that he has become an advocate for suicide prevention, because we're hopeful that will help save other lives. Some of the goals that Kiersten's Ride does around northern Michigan is to provide evidence-based trainings. So these are trainings that have been proven effective to reduce suicides in communities where they are put in place. So yes, training is a great way to be able to help save lives in communities. And we're grateful to be able to do that here in northern Michigan.
And I think we spoke about this, but you had said that the peer recovery coaches are coming and they're taking the trainings as well.
Yeah, so we have several peer recovery coaches coming, and we know, as you and I discussed per phone call, that there is quite often a correlation between substance abuse disorder and suicide. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the tools that they can have to be effective with those who they're working with.
Yeah, because it does go hand in hand. It really does. And the more people can understand that, I think the better it is. But there's something, that is to be said, like all day today, I couldn't stop thinking, and I can feel sympathy, but I can't feel empathy. I don't have any kids. I don't, I haven't lost anyone that close to me. And I couldn't imagine. Like, I have a cat that I love, and, with Trevor and with you, and I was thinking about you and Kiersten all day, and like, how am I going to talk to Lisa? Should we bring it up, or should I just act like, it didn't happen? But it did happen.
It did happen. And Kiersten was our 17-year-old daughter that we lost in August of 2012 to suicide. And Kiersten's ride exists to help other people, but it exists because she existed. So her life matters, and the way that we can carry that tribute forward is to be able to save others in her honor. So that's what we do. And it is unfathomable. I could never explain to another person what it's like to lose your child to suicide. And if I can save others from ever sitting in this seat, that would be my goal.
And I'm sure you've had people reach out to you, whether they lost somebody or they had a talk with somebody and got through to them, where they went to talk to other people to get help. And I think that kind of made you feel just like
validated in what we're doing. And to be very honest, as we started doing these trainings, the stories have come in from people who have been able to reach out to others because they've been able to utilize the trainings to recognize when thoughts of suicide are present and to be able to connect that person to help. But we've also heard from individuals who were struggling, who were then able to help themselves because they know other people care. This is something that's being talked about now. So they don't feel like they're living alone in this world where nobody's understanding what they're going through. Just knowing that there's other people who are going through this, and that there are people who are willing to help them get through this crisis time in their life, is empowering for someone who struggles.
And there's many signs too, which I'm sure you know probably all too well at this point, that when people go through these struggles, and that's what makes the training so valuable for people. And you might be thinking, oh, well, my kids will never do that, or, well, you don't know about your grandkids. You don't even know your grandkids yet, maybe. Like, you never know when this is going to just pop up and surface where you could help somebody. It could be you're talking with your friend, having lunch, and he or she is saying, oh, this, and they're doing this, and it's just ringing all these alarms where you're like, hey, like, I don't mean to, and you don't come at people with, oh, I think, we should get him some help. He's thinking about committing suicide, because that's not what you're going to say. But that's why the training's there, to learn how to approach other people, I'm sure, and to just pick up on those key
cues.
Yeah, because...
Yeah. And to be very honest, most people live in the bubble that they're very sad when they see it happen to another family, but they really don't foresee it ever happening to them. And because we live in that bubble of not wanting to believe that our loved ones could be in so much pain, we really don't recognize things that we should, so that we're able to provide help. So this training is really, or these trainings, we offer a variety of them, are really about, stepping outside of what you're comfortable with recognizing in someone and recognizing what's there. So we need to put away our own needs so that we can see the needs of others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, because we put a protective factor on ourselves. Mm-hmm. So often we say, I don't want you to be hurting this way, and if I don't talk about it, it can't really be happening. Mm-hmm. And instead, we're going to ask you to say, something doesn't feel right here. This is what I'm noticing from you. And I wonder if that could mean that you're having thoughts of suicide, because if it is, I want to be able to talk with you about that, and I want to be able to help you get to the help that you need. And
sometimes I'm not going to speak for everybody in the world here, but when I was going through, a tough time, and I would have a relapse, and, I had been doing great for months, and I didn't want to relapse again, break up with a girlfriend. It thousands of excuses. I can find one. I'm good at justifying things, but I would get to that point to where, I would think, okay, well, I'd rather just drive my car into a tree. That way they'll just think that I maybe drove off the road or fell asleep, or, it'd be so much easier than going through another relapse and having, my sister look at me and my brother not talk to me and my mom, here we go again, like it just gets to the point. But that's a real kind of selfish way of thinking. And of course the alcohol causes that. I'm not in my right mind when I'm thinking stuff like that, because obviously I want to live. I have a great life to live. There's great people in my life that I love. And to think that if I would have done something like that, how painful it would have been for them. My sister, I talked to her the other day and she was talking about, she was scared that I would die and that family function, she thought about it, she removed me from the situation and thought, okay, well, how's Christmas going to be without Corey? It's going to be so sad. And who's going to make fun of mom with me? And, what about, my boys, they love Uncle Corey. And, she went through that in her head, me not being here. And that, I never even realized that before. I was just so selfish about, me, and I don't want to be looked down upon because I relapsed. And it's not really about the relapse. It's about what I do after it. And
honestly, some people call acts of suicide as selfishness, or probably even substance use as acts of selfishness. But typically, it's an individual who's in so much pain that they just want to change that. Mm-hmm. They want that pain to stop. So whether it's acting on thoughts of suicide or whether it's substance use, we really want to change that thought of selfishness and help people to understand that this person typically isn't thinking clearly. And if they were able to recognize the value in themselves and in their life, they wouldn't be thinking the way that they are right now. So we want to be able to help that individual, but we also want to be able to extend help to family members, such as your sister, who was having to put herself through the pain of thinking, this is where I foresee this going for my brother, and how painful truly that must have been for her. Mm-hmm. But you didn't do that intentionally to her. No. You weren't trying to hurt her. You were just trying to change a situation that you had put yourself in, mm-hmm. right? So it's really not about trying to transfer pain to someone, and it's really not about a selfish act. It's about you not being able to understand in that moment that there was a better way to help yourself. And that's the thinking we want to switch to.
And I think a lot of that comes from the shame, shaming from other people, like, and, the doctors that are coming into the emergency room and giving me the look, like, you're taking up spots in my ER and now I got to come see you, and, and all that again, and I just feel so much shame, if it was treated a little bit better, and they're working on that, they're trying to put peer recovery coaches in hospitals, which some do have now, but, to where we're not beaten up so much. And the same thing with people who
are struggling with thoughts of suicide.
Yeah. And, when they go to the, hospital for the second or third time, who knows how many times they might have went, they're going to get probably the same treatment, like, you're thinking about, and they might be a little bit more sympathetic towards them, but no, maybe not.
Well, it just depends on the education that the individual has and their comfort level with the discussion. I think a lot of times, sometimes, I shouldn't say a lot of times, sometimes the medical staff feels uncomfortable with the situation because they don't understand it. Maybe they don't have experience with it. So I think everybody just needs to bring their compassion level up and recognize that this is an individual. This is not their entirety. This is a situation that they are in right now. And if we just start looking at each person, just how do we meet their needs right now, whether it's a typical medical situation that comes into an emergency department, or whether it is a substance use disorder or a mental health disorder or crises. How do I help this person get through it? We just want everyone to have a little more compassion.
Yeah. And I listen to the station out of Dallas, 1310 The Ticket, every morning, and they're awesome. And they're the shootings that just happened again, it's just like, and one of the guys finally, he's been saying this for a while. He's like, when are we going to deal with this mental health issue? Like, take away the guns, somebody's going to bring a bat, take away the bats, someone's going to bring a knife, take away the knife, somebody's going to, learn how to build a bomb, like, the mental health, like, why don't we stop and look at the real issue? Like, okay, well, why are these people doing this? Who in their right mind? Nobody in their right mind would do that unless they're just pure evil. And there are pure evil people in this world. I get it. But I think a majority of there's more people with mental issues than there are people with broken legs. That's just a fact.
And, 1 in 5 people will be dealing with a mental health issue in their lifetime. So to be able to put that on the table, to be able to tell people that it's okay if this is happening to you, but we need you to seek help, that this is not normal to have these thoughts of harming yourself or harming others. So recognize when it's there, seek out available treatment, and don't be ashamed of seeking that treatment. So we need to quit calling people crazy people, and we need to start encouraging individuals taking care of their mental health just as we do someone who's exercising or taking care of their physical health in any manner. If you had an issue, a heart disease issue, and you were taking a medication every day, that should not be treated any different than an individual who has a chemical imbalance in their brain and needs to take a medication for that. Some mental health issues require a medication. Sometimes it's a short term, sometimes it's long term, and sometimes an individual just needs the opportunity to be able to talk and process through the thoughts that they're having and the situations that they're in. We need to do the same thing for substance use and mental health. Give them that same level of respect that we give a physical health ailment.
And maybe it's more normal than you think. It's not healthy to think that way.
It's not healthy.
It's definitely not healthy, but
it's more common.
Yeah. So to tell someone they're not, well, it's not normal. Well, okay. How are you going to tell them it's not normal? And
we don't want to say you're not normal, because then it's going to discourage them from reaching out for help.
Right.
And it creates those people who will never say what's going on. So then this is underneath the surface festering rather than being addressed.
And we wanted to address something too. And you kind of smiled when you said it earlier, but you said substance use disorder.
Yes.
Because we were talking about that, and I had said, I was talking about Trevor and a little bit of his backstory, and you're like, we don't use that word anymore.
Yeah. So you're referring to addressing some of the language change that I spoke with you about. It used to be very common to use the word committed when referring to suicide, when someone had died by suicide. That language shift is happening because we're trying to get rid of stigma, we're trying to get rid of shame, and we're trying to have an open, honest, non-hurtful communication in our communities. So we don't say the word committed anymore. What we do say is an individual died by suicide, an individual ended their life, or an individual suicided.
But
so,
you don't like suicided. You just like,
that word to me just seems a little strange grammatically, but I typically say someone died by suicide or someone ended their life. So when I refer to my daughter, she died by suicide when she was 17 years old.
Right. The lady was in Petoskey. She committed B&E when she...
Right. And
well,
so,
I don't know if it was B&E. She threw the rock through the window, and then she was caught in the store
with the shopping cart.
Yeah,
full
so
of
she
cigarettes.
technically didn't steal anything. I mean, maybe it was attempted, but
Yes.
but yeah, so she committed something,
Yes.
So that's what you're,
Right. We're trying to take away some stigma and shame that might be left with families. Typically, the word committed is associated with a crime or a sin, and we don't want to put that hurt on a family when they're already going through so much pain. So another thing we don't say is a failed attempt. If someone has survived a suicide attempt, we're grateful for that. We want them to be alive, so we want to help them move away from those thoughts of suicide and towards safety. So those are just some language shifts that are happening so that we can create better conversation and safer conversation in our communities.
I just want to talk on a personal level, and I don't know if you've even listened to our podcast before, but this ex-girlfriend of mine, man, she was just the wrong one in every sense of the word. But yet, God put her in my life, I guess, for me to learn a bunch of lessons. Which, thanks, God, appreciate it. Hopefully, I got them. But she did drugs, and she was doing drugs hardcore. And I think subconsciously I thought, oh, well, if she's doing that, I can drink and she won't say anything, And even when she found out about, I had liver failure and kidney failure, then she kind of changed her tune a little bit and wasn't cool with me. But anyway, she was just waiting to die. She was doing it with drugs as opposed to jumping off a bridge or
Let's try not to mention methods too much.
Okay.
If we can't, because that could be harmful for someone who might be struggling.
But her method, though, was with the same end, and for her it was different, and she would look at people if they would post stuff online, and she would just have a really negative attitude towards it, and I didn't like that at all. And there are people out there that, and I think a woman actually, she was on trial, I think, at one point, but she had told her boyfriend, or maybe it was vice versa, maybe no, I think it was her. She had told her friend or boyfriend to, fine. And like she was an accessory or something. But are you familiar with that story?
Oh, yes. You're speaking of the one that got national attention about the young girl who through text.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I am aware of that situation. So that was kind of an unprecedented situation, but certainly we should never, ever encourage anyone to end their life. In any time someone talks about it, whether you think they're serious or not, it needs to be addressed as a serious matter. So whether that's, calling for a well check by calling 911 if you're not physically with them, or whether it's, for that particular instance, if it's a youth, calling a parent, someone who's in the house who can check on the individual, put eyes on them, make sure they're okay. And then, of course, we would encourage some sort of mental health follow-up, to have them checked out and to make sure that their needs are being met. Yeah.
Yeah. So, however, doesn't matter. But if you're afraid that a family member, it's the same thing as, well, I don't want to say starving themselves, but if somebody's not well and you care about them, call and have a wellness check done.
Absolutely. And it's okay to even ask an individual outright that you're concerned about. It's okay to ask them if they're having thoughts of suicide. That won't harm them in any way. It might open up a conversation because they might be struggling and thinking no one's recognizing what's going on. They might also feel like they can't talk about it because you might be embarrassed by them, or you might shame them or have a really negative reaction. But if you can tell an individual what you're noticing, you're not coming out to family things anymore. I noticed you're not eating well like you used to. You've lost a bunch of weight and I'm really concerned about you. I wonder if you might be having thoughts of suicide. And then just give them the opportunity to answer. You're not influencing their answer. You're just allowing them to be able to address something. And then even if they were to say no and you believe them, you could still say, well, I'm here for you to talk to about whatever might be going on. So it's just opening up a healthy conversation for an individual. Just like if you have concerns about someone who might be, using substances in an unhealthy way, let's talk about what might be going on. Maybe that individual just needs to know it's okay and that someone's recognizing their struggle and that someone can help them turn toward help if they're willing.
What would be the best way? Obviously, from what you just said, don't beat around the bush. Don't be stern, I would assume. But like you said, an open dialogue,
patience. You really just want to allow the individual the time that they need. Patience is really a key factor in not influencing their reaction. Make sure it's an open-ended question. So you want to make sure you don't say things like, don't be silly, don't do something stupid. You need to say, if you're having thoughts of suicide, you need to let me know. Okay? We will work through this together. We will get you help. So just making sure the person knows that you're on their side and that they're not going to be judged by what they tell you, but rather directed or taken to get help by you, that you're actually part of the team that can get them the help they need.
I'm trying to think, does it ever get, and my mom will say, no, I don't care, but where you say, are you okay? Or if you're having thoughts of suicide, you need to tell me. Where you get, well, you're just nagging me now. Like, why do you keep bringing that up? I told you I'm fine.
So if an individual, like maybe an individual has had thoughts of suicide in the past, you were able to work through that, but you want to be able to check in with them. It doesn't have to be the first question out of your mouth every day. You could say, hey, Corey, tell me how you're doing today. What was your day like? How are your emotions?
I want to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to talk about it. That tells me maybe something's not so great today.
Well, I just had a crappy day. I'm going to bed.
Oh. Well, would you mind just sitting up with me and just visiting for a few minutes?
No, I have gas. I don't know. I mean, there's so many, but yeah, that's kind of unreal.
You're going to have, right. You're going to have to really follow the lead of the individual. And if you feel they're not being truthful with you and that they may harm themselves, that's when you might have to call in for extra help.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe you're not the one that they're going to talk to you about. As much as we want to fly in to be Superman, maybe we're not their Superman. Maybe there's somebody else that can connect with them, whether it be a friend, cousin, uncle, sister. I mean, it could be a number of people. There's some people that I won't talk to, and there's some people that I will.
Right.
And I'm sure you're the same way about different things. And it's like, no, not talking to you about my bills.
We all have people that we feel are more approachable for ourselves. So who is the comfort person for you? And let me get that person here if I'm not them for you. And that's okay. I don't have to be your person, but I want you to have a person.
So maybe try that approach. Like, hey,
absolutely.
If you're thinking about harming yourself, you need to talk to me. And, if not me.
Yeah. And then we always give individuals the 1-800 number. Sometimes they don't want to be able to talk to someone close to them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it needs to be that 1-800 number or the crisis text line, which is not only about suicide, but anything they feel may be creating a crisis in their life. But if you feel that physical harm is about to come to someone, then you absolutely need to step in and go above and beyond that and be able to reach out to 911 or drive them to the emergency department. We never want to leave someone alone with a situation if we think, those harmful thoughts are too prominent for them.
And people will also tell you, go to a meeting, go to AA. Now, are there meetings for...
So support groups for individuals who struggle with thoughts of suicide are a little harder to find in our region. NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, has a presence in the Traverse City area. We do offer survivor groups for individuals who have lost someone to suicide, but that's certainly a little different than an individual who's struggling with thoughts of suicide. What we would encourage for that individual is that they do continue with their own mental health well-being and care. So we would hope that they would be checking in with a counselor or someone who's able to provide a mentorship for them in a professional capacity to make sure they stay well.
And community health or...
Yeah, community mental health is a great outreach, but they're certainly the criteria of who they take is not always all-encompassing. So you want to make sure that, for some individuals, it's a church group. The pastors do a lot of counseling. Sometimes it's a private practitioner. Certainly some medical facilities can help point you in the right direction if you're looking for a counselor. Community mental health might also be able to give you some great resources if they are not able to provide the care that you need.
And Pine Rest, I went there few times. I think I was trying to set the record for most time spent in Pine Rest. I'm up there, that's for sure. But sorry, that's not really funny. But
well, no, I mean, I'm glad that you're able to say that that's there, and I'm glad that you were able to share that you've gone there multiple times, because we need to know that just like a physical health ailment, sometimes it's not a one and done. Sometimes, things come back, have a reoccurrence. And they need to be treated every time. So the fact that you're able to say, what, I didn't only go there once, I went multiple times. Mm-hmm. You recognize the need that you needed to be there, or someone recognized it, and you were able to get to the facility that was able to help you. That's the goal. Whether it's one time, if that creates the safety you need and gives you some life coping skills to move forward and not repeat that, great. But if you need to repeat that, your safety is paramount. So go as many times as needed for you to be safe.
Friend of mine, I keep telling him he needs to go, and he won't, but maybe I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy that has to, maybe he's still got more struggling to do, I believe that I went through everything that I went through. I've been through all kinds of stuff. I put my family through all kinds of hell. And I feel like I had to do that, not on purpose, but I feel like God had that for me. And he said, when I prayed about it years ago, Lord, please take this from me. For first, I thought he was just going to sprinkle some dust on my head, and I'd be fixed. But no, he was like, okay, you want to be fixed? Then I'm going to take you down the hardest road because I got plans for you. And that's what people kept telling me too. They're like, God has plans for you, Corey. And one guy at an AA meeting, after a relapse was like, Corey, you got to stop this, man. He was like, you're too good, and there's something planned for you. There's something, God has something great planned for you. You're too talented to just go out like this to alcohol. You can't drink yourself to death. You have to stop. And knock on wood, I didn't drink today, so that's great. And I'm feeling wonderful. And I much rather take Zoloft than go try to drink a half gallon of whatever. So why isn't that okay? Like my friend, he's like, oh, I don't need to get on that stuff. I don't need to go. I don't need to be checked out. But then he'll get down and he'll be like, oh, I need a drink. Well, no, what you need is some Zoloft, man. Here, take one of these,
right.
Give it 6 weeks to kick in. But
so what you're saying is that he's willing to self-medicate with something different rather than maybe find something that would be better suited to be able to truly help him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people look at it like, oh no, I'm not crazy. I don't need that. And I'm a guy, I struggle with that. My mom kept saying, Corey, I think you're depressed. I'm like, no, I'm not, and pretty much did the whole spiel a minute ago. Like, no, I'm going away. I don't want to talk to you about it. And then I was like, okay, I am depressed. Men can feel this way. And
absolutely. And men put a ton of pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
So, and we know suicide knows no boundaries, no age, no gender, race, socioeconomic class. None of those things matter. We are all just human beings with the capacity to be injured physically, mentally, socially, emotionally. And we need to be willing to give ourselves enough respect to take care of ourselves when we need that.
Yeah. So don't feel bad if you need to reach out for help. That's
Absolutely ever. I mean, and so you might go see someone to be able to talk about your mental health. And it might truly be able to prevent a lot of harm that you could do yourself if you tried to just self-medicate through substance use. Mm-hmm. We want people to find the fastest way to a healthy them.
And maybe working in the field, like this, the podcast and the website and that kind of stuff, it keeps me sober. It gives me something to do. And I know a lot of people now, and I know there's a lot of money being put back into the system for peer recovery coaches, people that have been there, went through it, so they can get out. And instead of going, where am I going to work? I got this drug charge, or, oh yeah, everybody knows that, I have a drinking problem or a drug problem, and now I can't get a job. Well, yeah, you can, and some of them pay really, really well. So, there is hope out there for you if you're thinking about going to a treatment center, things like that. There's good ones, there's bad ones. It depends sometimes on who's in there with you. If, one of the better ones is out on maternity leave when you roll through there, you never know. But, over here at Bear River, Joyce, she was awesome. I mean, Kendra was there. She was awesome. There's so many people there that are awesome that it just takes those few people that care. And it gives you that kind of sense of, yeah, I can do this. I can do anything I want as long as I don't go back to that old destructive behavior. And yes, I'll take my Zoloft, and I don't care if I'm on it anymore. Before I'm like, I'll take it for a little bit and then I quit and then boom, and it's just like when you stop going to meetings, they say when you stop taking your meds that help you, and I don't have to be on them forever. But, that's something that I talk to my doctor about now. I don't just stop taking them, and I have brain zaps. I'm like, I don't ever want to be on that.
Yeah. And that is a problem that some people do have. They start to feel better, so they think they don't need a medication anymore. And sometimes the medication is what's helping them get there. So that's always best to be able to talk with your doctor who prescribed that as to whether or not it's safe for you to be able to start weaning yourself. So that way you're able to be monitored and kept safe.
Yeah. And I do have to throw a disclaimer out. Guys, if you're getting on Zoloft, talk to your doctor, especially if you're on over 100 milligrams. So I'm going to say, just talk to your doctor. Guys, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that alone. But before we wrap things up, Lisa, let's talk about some events you have coming up.
Absolutely.
The training is coming up the 16th and 17th of May.
Yeah, so one of the different trainings we offer is suicide intervention skills training. So that the acronym for that is ASSIST. And we have that 2-day training coming up May 16th and 17th in Walloon Lake. You can also visit our Facebook page to find information about these trainings as well. But we're also working with Community Mental Health, who is a phenomenal agency in our community, and they are always able to provide at least an emergency assessment for an individual. So even if they can't be a long-term healthcare provider for you, don't ever be afraid to approach CMH for help in a crisis, because they are truly phenomenal and a great asset in our community. But we're working with them to have a community discussion night on May 8th at Boyne Mountain, and it's a free event from 6 to 7:30, and that's really to be able to view some clips of a movie that will be coming out this fall about mental illness and its effects on families. So we're not really truly endorsing the movie itself, but rather the discussion in our community and how we can care for everyone who's involved when there may be a mental illness. So we have that coming up, the assist training coming up, and we also have our annual event, which I like to be able to share with individuals, always the third Saturday in August. This is what pays for the majority of the programs that we offer in the community. The money that comes in from this event, we turn around and put it right back into the community to offer these different trainings. So there are some different things we do. We do the Yellow Ribbon program in schools. That's a youth suicide prevention program that's, done all around the country. Just giving kids tools of, if they're struggling, they can ask for help. Reach out to an adult and let someone know what's going on if they have a concern for themselves or a friend. So we just give them some tools. And then we have a half-day alertness training that we offer, usually once a month, once every other month. And all of our trainings are around the northern Michigan region, trying to shake up the locations just to make availability more accessible for participants. And then the assist training, which is the 2-day training, and then some different things like this mental illness community discussion are just a touch of the different things that we do in the community. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but we also have a billboard that circulates around northern Michigan, just letting individuals know that there is the 1-800-273-TALK, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 24/7. And then there's also a crisis text line, which is 741-741. And you can contact either one of these numbers anytime, and someone will be able to assist you and help you.
So 741. 741,
741-741.
And
that crisis text line can be for anything, not just suicidal ideation or thoughts. It can be, if I'm having a substance use crisis moment, reach out for help. That's the biggest thing. If you're struggling and no one knows about it, it's really hard to get help. You have to let someone know, and that help is really your first step toward hope in my vision.
Yeah, when you isolated yourself and you're in a room alone, you might think you're the smartest one in the room. That's when you need to change rooms. Go to a different room. You need to get around people, because, isolating is definitely just it's a bad idea, especially for people that are struggling.
And our thoughts, if we leave them in our head, are typically so much bigger than if we can just put them out on the table.
Mm-hmm. And when you actually work through a situation that you've been dreading or stressing over, and it's causing you to just feel the anxiety, and then you deal with it head on, right in the face, and you're like, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. It's already happened. You just don't know what the results are yet. That's kind of the way I like to think about it. But yeah, if you just keep skirting it, you're just going to make the problem bigger. Just deal with it. It doesn't matter. Like, I've lost a house. I've had my car repoed. I told them to come get my car. I was like, best decision ever. They were hounding me so bad, but it was one of those things that was building up, and I had a lot of pride. And no, not my car, no, not my house. Well, like the lady told me on the phone at the bank, she's like, people lose their house every day. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal, man. You're not dying. I'm like,
and we can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we react to something. Take that power in that moment and know that there's a lesson to be learned from everything. Mm-hmm. We might learn what we want to do differently. We might learn what we deserve to have more than we've allowed ourselves in the past. We might learn from a situation how we will never allow ourselves to be treated again. We might learn from a situation where we have a relapse. Okay, what do I need to do differently so I don't put myself in that same situation again? Maybe it's me needing to change who I hang around. Maybe they're not a positive influence on me. Maybe I need to choose the people that are going to really lift me up and help keep me safe, rather than going back to the same group who have not always had my best interest in heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because each one of us has value, and God does have a plan for each one of us. We just have to give ourselves that respect and that value and know that we're worth the fight of getting to where he needs us to be and wants us to be.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't need to react. Sometimes you just need to act. Once you do that a few times, and you're going to pat yourself on the back because it feels good. Yeah. And there's a few times where I could give you a bunch of examples, but we're kind of running out of time. But you look back and you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't say that, because that was my first reaction, was to say this, and then, oh, I would have looked so dumb, and I would have looked just like an idiot, and it wouldn't have helped the situation. But that's what I was thinking, though, at the time. I was like, well, if I say this, it's going to make her feel stupid. It's not going to help the situation. It's not going to help the problem. It's just going to make her feel worse about herself, which is going to make me feel like, or it's going to make me actually be a bad person. So I'll just bite my tongue on this one, and 20 minutes later, it wasn't even a big deal. And I'm glad I didn't, and it was just one of those things. Like, once you stop reacting sometimes and then choose to act, it definitely does help. But your website's kierstensride.org.
Yes, and then we also have Kiersten's Ride Facebook page. We're having a little trouble uploading our trainings to our website right now, but certainly our contact information is there. But our Facebook page, Kiersten's Ride, is probably the easiest way to access information about upcoming fundraisers, as well as training events and opportunities for the community. And we are so grateful that you took the time to connect with us. So grateful for the opportunity to network in our community, to do good things together. Suicide prevention is really a role that the whole community needs to take part in, and working together is important to us. So thank you so much, and we're glad you're on the road to recovery.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome.
It feels great. And again, thanks for being on the podcast today, and thanks for talking to me. You could have just been like, no, I don't have time for that. but no, we're in the same kind of thing here where we're trying to help other people, and
absolutely,
and we help ourselves by doing stuff like this too. So
absolutely,
it was a pleasure meeting you, and this won't be the last I see of you, or the last you see of me. So hopefully you like me.
I do.
All right, 217recovery.com, and we're going to have stuff as soon as we get our stuff up for Kiersten's Ride. We're going to have that on the website, and then our Facebook, that'll be up pretty soon, because I don't have to email somebody and go, how come we don't have a calendar?
Yes.
Website people.
Yeah, and just if you're struggling, reach out for help. That's the main message we want you to take away from today, whether it's thoughts of suicide or substance use. Reach out for help, because you're worth it.
Yeah, and to learn more about Kiersten and Kiersten's Ride, kierstensride.org. And
thank you so much.
Thank you. 217recovery.com. Thanks for listening.